love my work. Fascinating conversations, and people are so willing to look at themselves that, I read the news and I'm like, I should just hate people. But then I interact with them in my work and they're so precious. I do these 360 assessments, and what is it? Tom Peters wrote a book. Well, he's written a lot of books in search of excellence and different things, but he talked about 360s. He says 360s they're just shit coming at you from every direction. Which is a little bit true. It's a little bit true. Tom might not have been that open to feedback. That might have been his concern. So I do this amazing 360 called the Leadership Circle, which really, it shows you what your tendencies are, what your survival strategies are, but also what your leadership competencies are. And the difference, the survival strategies are about how do I make it in this world? How do I prove that I belong, or I'm worth it, or you should like me, or whatever it is that's running us. But that's separate and a very different motivation than how do I create collaboration? How do I encourage this group to do the work that needs to be done? How do I interact in a way that they feel supported and we're making progress? And it's not, this does irritate me occasionally. People are like, well, I don't know, do I have to ask how their weekend was? No. Caring about the person at work, like, what's interesting, what's challenging, what's important about this, what's hard about this, what are you enjoying about it? You don't have to know anything about the personal lives. I don't care if you know that. It's fine if you do, but that's not what supporting the person doing the work means. Wow, I didn't know I was feeling that way about that. So, I got to do, so here I am yelling about, people. There's only a few that actually talk about, do I have to ask them about the weekend, and do they want to hug it out? I did have one guy say that recently. Do you want to hug it out? Which I think, if you offer it like that, is hilarious. But it's, but that's not, hugging it out is not in the leadership circle. So there's a lot of collapsed distinctions. That's how we can put it. It's a lot, just hugging it out is how you support people. No. So all I'm doing is saying what not to do. And where I started was being impressed with the people that I've been speaking to recently. And one of the major things that impresses me is their willingness, and these are leaders and these in particular CEOs, is to open their hearts and minds to the possibility that this feedback has some accuracy, that there is something for them to learn, that they have an impact they were not expecting. And I guess the reason that impresses me so much is the higher you go, the less people tell you the truth to your face. And there's a lot of people who think, oh no, my team tells me. It's hardly ever true. They tell you up to a certain extent. So you may, as a leader or a CEO, think that you're getting the truth. So then when you get your 360 results, there might be some surprises in there and some real disappointments. And these people, for the most part, are like, oh, what does that mean? And how could they think that? And I thought I was doing, and they're seeing it as, so, typically people are trying their best to do what they're supposed to do. So then when you find out you're not, it's tough, but they take it and engage with it and think about it and say, oh, how can I be better and do differently? And I think if I, when I was younger and thinking, trying to be a leader, and I don't know if I could have taken some of this feedback or dealt with it in a mature way. I'd probably run away to a beach somewhere and say, I'll fish for my own food. I was working with a CEO yesterday, and the results were not good. And he finally said, maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm not the one to do this job. Maybe there's somebody. Am I fixable? And of course, the answer is yes. You are fixable. Could somebody different do this job better? Probably. More easily, anyway. But what was interesting is he was coming from such an external viewpoint. He was like, what does the external world need? Does it need me to do this? Is it, could I focus on something else and give somebody else this job to do who would do it better? I mean, that is so egoless in my mind. I think of CEOs as, great is good and Wolf of Wall Street, once you get the power position, you're going to keep it. But in reality, people are generous and willing to, do what's right for the greater good. It's really helpful for me to know right now, so I thought I'd send it on. Because it doesn't always feel like that leaders are looking at the greater good right now. It's the constant tangle. Individual survival, proving, gotta make sure I got mine, which you can totally understand, right? Each of us has that within us. But then my role is supposed to be for the greater good, and how can I toggle between both of those without betraying one or both of those roles? I heard something recently about sort of ethics, sort of decision making, sort of how people who seem like, upstanding people, suddenly we hear indicted for drug peddling and, forcing athletes to take drugs, or all kinds of, and we're like, what? And this book, or this researcher, he said, it doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow, step-by-step process where one day you wake up and go, I'm a drug dealer. And so being aware at every step of where you're headed, which, is anybody aware of that? And I guess what I like nuance. I used to not like nuance. I used to want it, you're good Are you bad? And that's it. Nope. Well, there's a few people that fit into that. But for the rest of us, we're nuanced. We're complicated. We can justify anything. Until, oops, the FBI are here. So, this reminds me of a story I heard about prison. Was it the Netherlands? Probably. All the good things happen in the Netherlands or some Nordic country. The prison system there is far more about rehabilitation. It's not about revenge. And the prisoners live in cottages. They have to tend their own gardens. They cook their own food. It's basically teaching them sort of life skills in case they didn't have them before, but it's also teaching them responsibility and day-to-day, how to do things. And the recidivism rate is incredibly low. People, once they get out, they stay out. So, doesn't punishment work? Doesn't being mean to people shame them away from doing it again?